This week on the Road with Mickey, top 5 educational attractions at Walt Disney World.
We're on the road with Mickey, we're gonna have some fun. Regardless of the rain or sun, our trip has just begun. So buckle up, let's go. We're about to start the show. And maybe if you like us, you'll see where else we'll go.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike, and she's not Mike.
And she's not Sophie.
Hi,
And
everyone.
and she's not Grogu. Where's Grogu? There's Grogu. Hey Grogu. And
Goodness
we
gracious.
are whacked.
Very, very whacked.
And we are actually not whacked. We are on the road with Mickey. This is episode 245. Friends, thank you
Wow.
for joining us on our journey these years. Wow, it just blows our mind. And our feature topic this week is our top 5 educational attractions at Walt Disney World. And I'm we're excited because there's so much that you can learn at Disney. Disney is so full of magic, so full of wonder, so incredibly awesome. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. Um,
Maybe we
but
all are.
but there's so much more than just riding a ride, or there's so much to learn.
That's right.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what we think are the top 5 educational attractions. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, we have some really cool cheddar. I mean,
Yeah.
really cool cheddar. Mine's not so cool, but it has to be said. But anyway, Brenda, you start us off.
Right. Well, you can tell from our intro that we have short timers disease because we are almost at our trip and we're so excited that we can't even remember our names. But we can share news. And my news is that the Disney Treasure has arrived in Florida. Her maiden journey
Yay!
to Port Canaveral is now complete. And tomorrow night, November 19th at 8 o'clock p.m. on the Disney Parks blog, you can watch a live stream of the christening of the ship. I'm going to be watching it.
Wow.
You going to be watching it?
I'm gonna I'm gonna be at leadership board meeting at church, so I
And I'm
probably
going
will
to be
not be able to watch
working.
it.
Oh, well, I'm going to watch it for all of us then.
Yeah,
Be
Yes,
fill
awesome.
us in
please.
on the
But of
details.
course,
All right.
yes. But of course, there is still some things going on with the treasure that happened before the christening of the ship. On November 10th, the Disney Treasure saved 4 people who were on a sinking catamaran located over 200 miles from Bermuda. The crew sent a smaller ship to the catamaran, and the crew performed perfectly in saving those people. Well done.
Yeah.
Yay! Already making magic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I have some less than magical news, but it has to be said, and it's going to happen whether I say it or not. So I might as well alert everyone. We have some refurbishment news over at Wilderness Lodge. The Copper Creek villas and cabins will be going through refurbishment from mid-May through September of next year, 2025. And over at Port Orleans Riverside, refurbishment will happen in the Magnolia Bend section of the resort from April 2025 through January 2026. And then lastly, Pop Century will be receiving updates starting in late March 2025 through mid February 2026. So, if you're planning a visit and you are staying at one of those resorts, just be on alert. From what I understand, all the amenities will still be functional. It's just you're going to hear some construction noise through the day. So, there
Yeah,
you
they
go.
always have to be working on things and updating. So
Yeah.
there's impossible to go to Disney and have nothing being refurbed or worked on. I mean, they have to keep that
Yeah.
schedule up.
I mean, otherwise it would
Well,
be it just wouldn't be worth your investment in your
It'd
money.
be grody to the max.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, Walt did say that Disney World will never be finished as long as there's imagination afoot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a
Well,
lot.
well, don't forget you can connect with us on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, our YouTube channel. If you're watching, wave hi. Hey everyone. And on Instagram and on email. Email us at info@ontheroadwithmickey.com. And you can also check out all of our stuff at the website ontheroadwithmickey.com. So take a look and chime in. Leave us a comment or two.
And
But
you guys definitely did that with this last episode. Wow.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
so grateful.
because we have a lot of listener feedback on don't waste your time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to kind of go around a little bit and read some of these. I'll start us off. Patty chimed in with a very good answer. She says, I don't have anything that I don't want to waste my time on. She always tries to check out everything and experience the different things that they haven't seen before.
Great.
That is
tip.
a very good point. Yes, there is a lot to look at when it comes to Disney.
Yeah.
And again, with last week's episode, that is just our personal opinions. And of course, we have those personal opinions because we've tried most of those things before.
Mhm.
But if you haven't, you're not us. So something that we say don't waste your time on, it may work perfectly for you.
Exactly. All right.
Yes, and Debbie said, we do everything and hate missing anything. FYI, I forgot, we don't do everything in the circus area. That's the storybook circus with the dueling Dumbos and whatnot. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Pam has a very well thought out answer. The teacups. They look fun. I want to like them, but they make me nauseous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people feel that way, Pam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if you've just eaten lunch and then you're going on them.
Probably not the
Yeah.
best idea.
No.
Nope.
Now, I will say, Pam, this is our friend Pam in Northern Virginia. She said, or I wanted to say that if you ride the teacups and you don't spin it and just let it naturally spin, it's a much more relaxing and enjoyable entertainment for me. So maybe that might be something you might want to consider trying once, or just watching it and seeing how people let it just kind of flow and just see if maybe that might help. Anyway, Sophie, why don't you talk about what Sheila and Christy had to say?
They both had the exact same thought. Sheila and Chrissy said, don't waste your time waiting in line. Which,
There you
Oh,
go.
they're
yes.
multitask fans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
And then we have a different Pam. This is one of my friends from North Carolina who's a client. Pam sent us an email. Yay!
Yay!
We never get emails, so I love it when we get an email.
Yay! Ding, ding, ding. I wish I had a bell.
I might need to do like some sort of giveaway based on email response. Maybe that would be a fun
Ooh.
thing we should talk about later.
That would
Yeah.
definitely get what am I thinking of? It would definitely get what's the word?
Communication flowing.
Interaction. It would get the interaction up.
Yeah. Well, here's what she wrote. Hey, y'all. Really enjoyed the show, and it gave me a few new things to think about. I have to add this, though. Don't waste your time laying in bed in the morning. Set that alarm on the phone in your room and let Mickey wake you up. Get up, get out, get to rope drop. It really can make a difference. You can nap later in the day or when you get home from your vacation. but but take advantage of the early morning admission time and get out there and have fun. And then she said, Mike, I know we've talked about this before. I can't stand to waste my morning time at Disney. I'm raring and ready to get going in the morning. Just ask my two teenage granddaughters I had to drag out of bed last year when we took them for our girls' trip. No many how many times I go, I can't help myself from the go, go, go in the morning mentality. Keep up the great work. Oh,
Yay,
Pam, I
that's
love that email.
awesome.
That is awesome. I'm just picturing you getting your granddaughters out of bed. Come on,
Yeah,
let's go, go,
teenagers
go.
do not like getting up early.
Oh goodness, I'm getting sleepy just thinking about it. Oh
Well,
gosh.
that was great feedback, everyone. Thank you so much for leaving us comments.
I
Yeah.
will say though, there is a little bit of Disney magic when it comes to getting up in the morning at Disney.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, you'll find me in bed until 8 a.m. here in North Carolina, if I had the say so. But when it's at Disney, the blackout curtains are drawn. It is completely pitch black. But for whatever reason, Daddy sets his alarm at 6 a.m. I am always, always up just a few minutes before it.
It's excitement.
It
Waking
It
up
is.
at
is.
Disney is an altogether different feeling than waking up at home.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
It's like you wake up for that second at home and you're like, oh, not time to get up yet. And you go back to sleep. You wake up that second at Disney and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at Walt Disney World. And you're out. You're just up. It's so
Yep.
exciting.
Yeah.
We
All
all get to
right.
do that soon. Yay!
Yes. Yes. Well, it is now time to transition to our feature topic, our top 5 educational attractions at Walt Disney World. I keep saying our top 5. It's really
Well,
just
they
top
are.
5 educational attractions at Walt Disney World. And for this topic, we pre-selected a list of 5 attractions, and our list is the Hall of Presidents, American Adventure, Spaceship Earth, Living with the Land, and Kilimanjaro Safaris. And we're just going to talk about those 5 because they have such great entertainment, but also really good educational aspects. So, um, so Sophie is going to start us off by talking about the Hall of Presidents.
Yes, I am. And I'm going to preface this with a little tiny story. So I came up with this topic idea myself, and it came to me when we were talking about Liberty Square in the episode a few episodes ago.
Hmm?
And all of a sudden, I just remembered this one time in elementary school when my parents were wanting to pull me out of school like the weekend before fall break started and take me to Disney. And they had to appeal to my teacher in order to make that happen. And they said, if we can get Sophie to write a paper about how she learned something at Disney, will you let us take her? And she said yes. I was, of course, felt like I was cheated because at the time I was a little second or third grader. And I was like, I came to Disney to have fun. I did not come here to learn things. How dare you do this to me? And I was like, Daddy, what can I even learn at Disney? And he was like, well, let's go to Liberty Square and then I'll show you. So we went to Liberty Square, which at the time was my least favorite land in the Magic Kingdom. But he took me into the Hall of Presidents, and I will be completely honest, I was bored out of my mind. But looking back on it now, I am so, so glad that it was there because it really was the introduction into my love for history. It all started around the third grade for me. first and second. I couldn't stand social studies, but when we got into the third grade and they finally started teaching me about the American Revolution, I was like, whoa, this is cool. And then it just clicked. And the Hall of Presidents, I think, was the catalyst for that.
Nice.
Because, yeah, because it talks about the American Revolution. It doesn't go into great detail like school goes into, but it was enough. It was enough to at least build the foundation of that story.
Yeah. So talk about more about exactly about the Hall of Presidents. What are we looking
Right.
at?
Well, first things first, when you go into the hall, there is an atrium before you go into the theater where the show starts. And in that atrium, you will actually find various artifacts from American history. You can find, I believe, some of the suits that the presidents wore. You can find George Washington's. There's a marble bust of Abraham Lincoln. But the most important thing of all in that atrium would be the rug that sits in the middle, and it's surrounded by a fence so that you don't step on it, but it is of the American seal, and it is a genuine one. It is the real deal, and that's why the fence is there, because you don't want to disrespect that seal by stepping on it,
Hmm.
and it is one of only two that you can find in the country.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the other one is, but that atrium is as important to the attraction as the actual show is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of history in there.
Lots of history.
And then as you get into the show, you have it's basically talking about the different presidents, and you
Mhm.
see audio animatronics of all the presidents,
All of them,
which
which
is just so cool.
it
Hmm.
is cool. And to think that wouldn't have been possible without of great moments with Mr. Lincoln, but of course that's a Disneyland attraction.
Hmm.
You won't find it in Walt Disney World, so we're not talking about it because this is Walt Disney World only. But when you talk about the Hall of Presidents, you really can't not talk about great moments with Mr. Lincoln, because that was the cornerstone of the entire attraction, really.
Hmm.
You know, the Imagineers painstakingly created those audio animatronic figures of those presidents to the
Hmm.
point that, like, if they had glasses, their glasses prescription is the glasses prescription on their glasses. If
Yes.
they had braces on their legs, which we all know, they're on there. I mean,
Hmm.
Hmm.
they wanted to create everything exactly down to the letter on all of those figures. It's the level of professional admiration is crazy. Those
Yes.
Imagineers are just unbelievably awesome.
And of course, they handle the show with such um, grace and dignity. In this day and age, it is really, really easy to construe the presidents with politics, which, let's be real, these were the leaders of our country. Of course, there will be politics involved with them, but you could, if you were a lesser person than the people who worked on this show, you could change the Hall of Presidents to be all about whatever political party you wanted it to be, but they didn't. They maintained strict neutrality with it. They were insistent on treating it as it was, not swaying it to appeal to one side or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing about it is it's not about a politics sort of
Right.
thing. It's about being it's about history.
Mhm.
It's not about politics. It's about remembering our past as a nation and recognizing the men that have become these leaders of our country, you know? And
Yeah.
so so it's just a really cool attraction. It just really is.
It
And
Yeah.
is.
that's why it's on our list. So,
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I doubt there's any place even remotely close to being like that anywhere.
right. Unless you like go to DC or something, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think they even pull that off.
No.
Yeah. I do remember one time I can't remember. I feel like it was in February, but it might have been in March or April, but we actually went to tour the Capitol.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that was 2018, I think.
I'd like to
And
go back.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. We had a
Mhm.
really good we it was really neat
Really,
to
really
see
neat.
all that. And I've, I've been there and had seen a lot of it, but I hadn't seen a formal tour of the Capitol like we had. I had back when I went before, you could just go,
Mhm.
and you didn't have to have a tour, and
Yeah.
so it was kind of neat because you're kind of like just walking past, people's offices, and but things are a lot different now. That was way back in the day.
Yeah. Things definitely are different now.
But anyway,
Maybe we should go see the Capitol again some year.
yeah, I think we should. I think that is a good plan to have, Sophie.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
But I think that's all I really have to say about the Hall of Presidents because there is an attraction that is very similar to it in another park.
that Brenda's going to talk about.
Yes, and that's the American Adventure over there in Epcot World Showcase America. And this one is it's also a show with audio animatronic figures. Um it talks more about the history of America.
Hmm.
And I'm going to read you a little bit from the actual ride. It says, I mean, sorry, the attraction. It says, in this dramatic production featuring 35 audio animatronic figures, digital rear projection images of 72-foot screen, and stirring patriotic songs, you'll watch firsthand as America's story unfolds.
Mhm.
So you sit in your seat, and it covers things like the landing of the Mayflower, the Boston Tea Party, winter at Valley Forge, the penning of the Declaration of Independence, the Civil War, and the Great Depression. You'll even encounter luminaries like Susan B. Anthony, Frederick Douglass, Thomas Jefferson, Chief Joseph, and Teddy Roosevelt, among others. And it's a very well done story of the history of America. It's very patriotic, in my opinion. And
Not to mention, it's narrated by Benjamin Franklin and Mark Twain.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's very well done. I mean,
It
and if
yeah,
is.
you're lucky enough to see the Voices of Liberty sing before or after the show, you're
exactly,
win-win.
exactly.
Hmm.
That is so cool.
Awesome.
Such a
Yeah.
great. It's such a great show, and it's one of those shows, unfortunately, that I don't spend enough time seeing. It's something that I really enjoy, but I oftentimes don't make time for it, and I think I need to make and devote some time to actually doing it. I think it's
Yeah.
that important because I mean, it's just so much that we forget about because we don't think about it every day. And shows like this really do a number of making sure that we remember our past. We remember the Dust Bowl, and we remember the famine, and we remember this and this and this, because that will help us to not have it happen again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really cool about these sorts of attractions is
Hmm.
being able to look back at your past so you don't repeat it going forward, perhaps. Um,
Yeah. And I also
so
feel like it's real easy for people to pick sides, and everybody's got a side. But I think for children, like in this day and age, to see the actual, I mean, people's lives were, you know, changed forever because of these events, and
Hmm.
families were, ripped apart, and mothers' hearts were broken, and it's like really, it puts them more personally into what happened.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's really easy to understand, and I think it's very educational for children at like elementary school age children that are, maybe fourth, fifth grade, things like that, to actually, learn it in a way that's not, having to study it in books and everything. It's very
Hmm.
personal, I think.
Yeah. And it's also, we talked about picking sides. Everyone has a side. But when you're in a show like this, it reminds you that everyone who's American seeing it is an American, and we are all on that same side.
That's right.
We are all Americans.
We're all on the American side.
And so that it can be helpful to remember, hey, maybe there's not always a situation where I have to choose a side,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
Great.
these are
A
great
great.
attractions, and I think
Yeah.
we need to make a conscious effort, Sophie, when we're there in December, of picking up and seeing some of these things that we forget about, you know?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. I
Uh,
want to see the American adventure with you.
and listening to the Voices of Liberty, oh my gosh, it just doesn't get any better than that.
It
No.
doesn't.
I mean, they are so good at
Yeah.
what they do.
And
And
of course, we'll see them in the candlelight processional.
yeah, we
Can't
will.
wait for that.
Oh my gosh.
Neither can
Oh.
I.
Well, it's time for me to talk about one, and I am going to my background photo, which, as you can
Yay.
see, is Spaceship Earth. I took this picture in my background in June of 2008. I love this picture. I love the
It's
color.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
love the darkness of the sky, and then the light of the, oh my gosh, I just love this picture. But
It
anyway,
is beautiful.
I was thinking this morning as I was getting ready, I was thinking about how, when you think of Disney, everyone thinks of Cinderella Castle, Sleeping Beauty Castle, and stuff like that. But if you think about it, Spaceship Earth is one of the most recognizable weenies, attractions, iconic symbols
Yeah.
in all of Disney, anywhere in the entire world. And I was thinking, Spaceship Earth is not just the building, the geodesic dome. It's also the attraction, and that attraction has now been running predominantly all the time, not always, of course, because of refurbishment, but it has been running for 42 years.
Yeah.
And that
Goodness.
that just blew my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy cow. And talk about educational. You see how we as a people, as
Hmm.
the whole earth, we see how we have progressed in our development over all these years, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool about Spaceship Earth, is being able to think about and see how things developed over time, how we can thank the Phoenicians,
That's right.
because that's
Yes.
how we got our alphabet, how we can relive Jesse Owens winning gold medal in Berlin in the 30s,
Yep.
how we can look at the launching and landing on the moon by Neil Armstrong. Uh, just so many cool things. And then what's really neat to me is how we get to choose what our future might look like based on the
Yeah.
computers today, you know?
And if you have a head.
And if your husband has a head, which unfortunately never has a head. So it's so funny.
Oh,
Oh, that is so
But
funny. I like the Renaissance era in there,
I do
especially like the
too.
painting of the ceiling on the Sistine Chapel.
uh
I do
and I
too.
like
There's
I like where they're writing the books and how the monk is
Yes.
asleep.
He's sleeping. Yeah, and his little
Yes.
chest is he's going up like this. So
Oh,
realistic.
it's so
Oh.
cool. And there have been changes over the years.
Hmm.
You
There
know,
have
there have
been.
been changes over the years, both in narrating and also in some of the little elements that you don't really think about much anymore. But but it's not been enough to really changes the the feel of the attraction. And I like that. I like that
I like
Spaceship
it
Earth. I
too.
know that it's going to be this and that it's going to be just like I remembered it. So
Yeah.
Spaceship Earth to me is a really really cool educational attraction.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good to think about. It's fun when you're, thinking about what you might choose in the future for like, farm or, country or city and all those things. It's kind of neat to think about that. I think
Yeah.
especially for the young ones to think
Yeah,
about where they're going.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So, Spaceship Earth is definitely on my list of top educational attractions.
Plus, it's nice to sit. It goes slow. It's air conditioned, and it's
Yeah.
a nice break in the heat of the day, especially like in the summertime. And it gives you
Hmm.
like the best of both worlds because it's something you could do indoors in the air conditioning, and it's educational and it's enjoyable.
And
And
one
it has
little,
a short line.
usually, yeah, but one little quick aside, I run my own technology company. Before that, I was in an IT department for the state of North Carolina and at our PBS station. And um, in Spaceship Earth, there's the scene where the lady is working where all the computers are and everything, and you see a desk and you see a phone. And what's really funny is if you look carefully, you'll see the cord coming out of that phone, and it's got a special connector. It's about 3 inches long, and it's about half an inch tall, and it's a really long, and it plugs into a specific device, and it's called a 25 pair cable. And what's really funny is in my former occupation before I started my business, I lived in that world of 25 pair cables because that's how
Oh
we would
my
set up our
gosh,
phones and everything like that. And so
that's
the
neat.
fact that that's right there and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, look at that 25 pair cable." And it just strikes home. And to me, I find that the funniest thing about the whole attraction is that 25 pair cable.
Yeah, you got a little inside
Yeah.
knowledge of that kind of thing.
So,
That's
but
cool.
it's just funny to me. So,
Meanwhile, I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about or
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. But your daddy's happy and that means you're happy, right, Sophie?
Sure. Sure. I'll
Always.
go with that.
Anyway, all
That's a great
right.
attraction though.
So, next attraction. What's next on our list?
My favorite. Also, can we just talk about how 3 out of the 5 of these attractions that we're talking about are in Epcot?
Yeah. You know
And
what? And that is a very valid point, isn't it?
Mhm.
it is. It is. And this is the third out of those 3. Living with the Land. As I'm sure most of you are aware by now, Living with the Land is one of my favorite rides at Epcot, especially Epcot. And I like it because I like food and it's just interesting to me, okay?
Hmm.
The entire architecture of the ride, but mm, Living with the Land is awesome. I've said that already. But it focuses more on the science aspect, whereas the last 3 rides that we've been talking about have been focusing on history. So this is kind of a break from that. And of course, it goes into when you're going into the ride, of course, it has a short line, which is always a plus. When you're going
Usually.
in, usually, When you're going into the ride, you start out with a sort of basic refresher of how water is an endless cycle and how plants grow. It starts with the rainforest. You see the rain watering the soil and feeding the plants and letting them grow lush and green. And then it all of a sudden stops, and you go into this very arid, very dry, very warm desert. And you're thinking, how on earth can life exist here? But it does. And it discusses how the plants in the desert are especially adapted to that environment. And then it goes into the American prairie, which is like the perfect mesh between a forest and a desert because it's still dry, but the ground there is fertile. And it talks about farming, which is very, very important. Very important. And then you get to the core of the attraction, which is that we have so many people on Earth that we need to feed. How on earth are we going to provide enough food for all these people while still being sustainable? Because there are so many people on Earth, and the Earth is not as big as we think it is.
Hmm.
So we need to work towards being able to use the land correctly so that we can continue to feed people for years, decades, centuries to come. And then you get into the greenhouses, which is my favorite part of the entire attraction. And it talks about all these different ways that the Disney company, which people will look at Disney and think, what on earth does Disney have to do with eco-sustainability? Why on earth are they farmers? But they are, and it is a great thing that they are, because those greenhouses that they show us in that ride, they go on to feed the produce for all of the Disney Resort. Most of the Disney Resort, all of it, most of it. They make a whole lot of food in those greenhouses, and they are so tiny when you think about it. But they still feed all these people, and Disney has a lot of people. Like, just think about it. It's what? How many people go to Disney every day?
A lot.
A lot of people.
Like, I want to say, I'm going to make a bet. Guess how many people go to Disney on any given day?
100,000.
People go to Disney World a day. 159,000 visitors per day.
Dang.
And
Yeah, they
these
can't feed all those
greenhouse,
people, but they do. I think they do supply food to the Sunshine Seasons and maybe the
they
Garden Grill.
they supply
Hmm.
it to the Garden Grill, they supply it to Sunshine Seasons, and I'm pretty sure they supply produce to various other places in
Well,
the parks.
also they have, in addition to the greenhouses we see on the ride, they have other greenhouses exactly like that that are off property that
Hmm.
provide a lot. So
Yeah.
so those specific greenhouses on the ride aren't necessarily feeding everyone at Disney, but they're part of that whole chain, which
Hmm.
is really
Yeah.
cool. So,
Yes.
and it's really neat from a perspective of seeing how you can grow more with less. So if you live in a 300 square foot apartment in the middle of New York City, you can still implement some of these techniques and have your own source of vegetables that you're growing that you
Hmm.
can eat on every single day, and you're not taking up a lot of space in your apartment, which to me is what it's really all about, is about how can I take a small little plot and make something out of it. And that's where Living with the Land really shines on that, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
How can I add a
because
little something something to my fish aquarium and grow my vegetables on top?
exactly, exactly. How can I use my goldfish tank to make some nice healthy lettuce.
That's right. That's right.
Well, that's another thing about it. They don't just grow plants in that tiny, tiny greenhouse. They're also growing the fish
Mhm.
because they invest in this thing called aquaponics, and it is seriously interesting. I can't tell you how many times I've written Living with the Land, but every single time, well, almost every single time, it was the same thing with the Hall of Presidents and every other educational attraction on this list. When I was a little girl, I did not care about Living with the Land. In fact, I didn't care about Epcot in general
Hmm.
when I was a
Yeah.
very little girl.
Sophie's first trip to Disney, our friends invited us. This is Leanne and Riley and her family, and they invited us to come down and stay with them at their timeshare.
Hmm.
And um, and we went to Disney, went to Magic Kingdom, and they had Leanne had made a reservation for the girls to all go have breakfast at Norway at Akershus for the princess breakfast, and they went to do that, and so we had park tickets for Epcot. And when they got done, and Sophie is 4 years old, keep in mind, when they got done, they were like, "We don't want to stay in Epcot. Can we go back to Magic Kingdom?" So we upgraded our ticket to Park Hopper for the last day we had. We paid the whole amount for
Yeah.
one day. But that's a
Eh,
lesson you learn, you know.
yeah,
But but
Then it
that was
ends up being
fine.
your favorite.
And
it
now it's her
does.
absolute
Now,
favorite park is Epcot.
listen, listen, my opinions change as I grow, okay?
Hmm?
Yeah, everyone's do.
And furthermore, Epcot over the years has become a little more kid friendly
It
It
has
has.
because,
developed that because
Yeah.
they know people don't want just, you know, they want to make sure there's something for the kids in every park. So you're
hmm,
absolutely right. And you know what's funny is, speaking of living of the land, um my friend Beth and Joy, they're twins. They were in the college program, and Joy was the one of the narrators for the boats for Living with the Land, back when they had the people would talk about and tell the story as you rode through it. Now it's all
Yeah.
automated and it's just
Yeah.
a soundtrack they play. But she was one when they were actually narrating the story of the attraction. And
Neat.
so, which is kind of cool that it ties all back together. But yeah, Living with the Land is really neat, and it's a really neat one. And this year we need to make sure we ride it, um,
yes.
especially in the evening at on our Epcot day, because they are transforming it into a holiday theme with special lights that show up and special decorations, and it's going to
Yay.
be so neat to look at.
So
So
cool.
So hopefully that will live up to the hype I've put it in my head.
Yay. Great thing to do after candlelight processional.
Well, it had to be before because after it'd be closed.
Hmm.
Well, I don't know because
Mine won't. I'm going to the
we're
6:45.
doing the 6:45. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be
Yeah.
plenty of
So
time
we
left.
would have some time there. You're right. You're
Yay.
right.
It'll be awesome.
It will be awesome. So cool. All right. So that is Living with the Land.
Yay.
And that takes us to the last on our list. Brenda, you
Yes.
talk about it.
You will find this educational attraction in Joe Rohde's masterpiece of a park, Animal Kingdom Park.
Mhm.
And that is Kilimanjaro Safaris. And just like everything else in Animal Kingdom, it is authentically created to be the perfect representation of an actual safari in Africa. And it's awesome. I just love it. I love it so much. I ride it every single time we go, and it's wonderful. It's like a 25-minute safari through the actual savannah that they created at the park. And it's just wonderful. You see zebras and giraffes and little Tommies, and you learn about the animals. There's just elephants. There's ostrich. I mean, there are so many. I wonder if, let's see.
Opaki?
Yeah, this doesn't say offhand how many. Oh no, 30 species living in 110 acres of picturesque open plains, shady forest landscapes, and rocky wetlands. And yes, we see the lion. I have had people tell me that they think some of the animals like the lion are like fake animals like the hippopotamus on Jungle Cruise. None of
No.
the animals on the safari are fake at all. They're all real
None of them.
animals living on the safari.
Yes.
There are trainers taking care of them. There's a lot of educational stuff going on behind the scenes there at the safaris and with the animals, and a pet, like an animal hospital, a working animal hospital. It's extremely educational, and it's wonderful. I love the Kilimanjaro safaris.
I do too. It's so neat. And
It is.
it has changed through the years as well. They used to have they wanted to make it a fun attraction, kind of like a daring thing. So when it
Right.
first opened, it had the, oh my gosh, we have to save the baby elephant scene. And you
Right.
would all of a sudden you'd be like, choo, and you're taking off to save from the poachers. And that's all well and good.
And the bridge was breaking and you were
Yeah.
trying to get over it and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. But they took that part out and they made it more just strictly about how
Yeah.
the conservation methods they're using
Mhm.
and how they help to try and save these animals that are
Yeah.
under endangerment. And it's really neat to learn all this and to see and to kind of get a feel for all the different things that Disney does that are behind the scenes that no one thinks about,
Right.
that really are for the betterment of the world, and that is
That's
just,
right.
and that's what Walt was all about,
Yeah.
Definitely.
you know.
He was a conservationist for sure. He really, really cared about that.
Yeah. So it's a really, really good attraction, and
A lot of wild
it's
animals at that park.
it's a really good one to see, and it's really neat. What I like is trying to find how many of the ones we would see on a typical ride, because there's, like you said, 35 different animals that you might see, and it's really kind of cool to see how many you might see in that journey.
Yeah.
And because they're real animals and they can't be confined to a specific schedule like animatronics can be, you will never see the same attraction twice when you ride Kilimanjaro Safari. You will
That's
Exactly.
never
right.
see it.
That's right. And the safari vehicles are very, very much like a real safari vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much. And the park was, the park was created around that and around, there's different things at that park than at other parks. For instance, I learned this from Sharpie,
Mhm.
but do you know that the Animal Kingdom park bathrooms are the only ones with locks on the doors?
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
In case there was ever like a wild animal got loose in the park or whatever, and you literally had to seek shelter, those buildings are the
Oh,
shelters and the doors lock.
oh, no, I
I
did
had
not
no
know that.
idea.
Did not know that, and I hadn't even noticed that the doors lock.
Yeah.
Nope.
Very interesting, but they think of everything.
You have
There's
to.
nothing that they don't consider, and that park is just so authentically culturally representative of like every area is done to perfection in my opinion. I think Joe Rohde's amazing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But Kilimanjaro Safaris is definitely a do not miss attraction.
definitely. And what I love is the fact that the safari, I mean the savannah at Animal Kingdom, 110 acres, is bigger than the entire Magic Kingdom.
Mhm.
It's all, the savannah is bigger than the entire park for the Magic Kingdom,
Yeah,
Yeah,
which just blows my mind.
I know it.
But
but it's
It's
also
definitely the biggest
telling.
park.
yeah,
It's telling.
yeah,
It shows just how highly Walt valued the conservation.
And
It is
Definitely.
then
very,
they
very timely.
definitely carried that forward, and they didn't, they went to the lengths they needed to go
Mm-hmm.
to make it where it would work, not just like cramming all these animals into whatever space they had.
Right.
They went the distance with the amount of land they developed for it. um
It's
and
funny too, as agents, I'm sure you also get this question a lot. Isn't Animal Kingdom kind of just like the zoo? No.
no,
No.
no, not even close, not even close.
It's
um
the zoo on steroids.
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go.
there you
Yeah,
go.
rather than being in these little bitty areas,
Yeah,
where they're confined and everything.
you
It's
know
just
the
so wonderful.
the
Mm-hmm.
closest thing, and the only comparison I can make of Animal Kingdom or Kilimanjaro safaris being like a zoo is that in North Carolina, in Asheboro, we have the North Carolina Zoo, and it is a huge, huge venue, and it has a section for North American animals as well as a section for like animals you see in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire zoo is just huge. I don't know how many acres or anything like that, but the animals you see out on their savanna, on their, like where you go see the lions or the elephants or the zebras or whatever, um, the amount of space they have is, in my mind, comparable to what the space they have in the savannah at Disney at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
Really,
So
110 acres.
I
God,
don't
that's a
know. I
lot.
don't know, but it's a lot. So I will look up details and let you know, Brenda,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a really, really, it is a first rate zoo, and we're proud that we have it. Um, but we listed 5 attractions,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? As I'm thinking, there were others we could have talked about as well.
Oh, certainly.
We could have talked about One Man's Dream
We could have.
Yeah,
for the educational stuff for the film industry and the stuff that Walt had in his office and the techniques that they learned.
yeah,
Um, you could talk a little bit of education in Carousel of Progress,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
thinking
could.
about the different things like electricity and all
yeah.
that, and the time, the seasons, and the different
And the
decades and so
decades,
forth.
yeah,
So there are other attractions that we didn't even get to,
yeah.
but
And I
that's
We
mean,
had to stop
really neat.
somewhere.
and I
Yeah.
mean, maybe Pirates of the Caribbean is set in a fictional thing, but technically speaking, it's historical fiction.
Hmm.
There are a lot of things set in the real world that one does not really consider, but they the way that Disney makes them seem so magical, it's easy to make it seem like they're not educational when they very well could be. Ever
Yeah.
so slightly. It is a
Yeah.
little bit of a stretch, so we chose the top 5 that are by no means a stretch.
Yeah.
Well, and Journey Through the Imagination with Figment is educational too. All about how the imagination works. There's just
Yeah.
a lot there. There's a lot
Yeah.
offered at
Yeah.
Disney. And then we're just
Exactly.
talking about Walt Disney World. We didn't even go over to Disneyland and talk about that at all.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Remember Ellen's Universe of Energy?
Yeah.
That one was educational.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dinosaur, very educational. I had to ruin it, didn't I,
Oh
Sophie?
my gosh.
Had to do it,
Yes.
didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Oh no.
Oh my. Well,
No.
you know what? I think that is a great feature topic, and I think with my foot in my mouth, I'm going to introduce this day in Disney history. So, Sophie, take it away.
You're lucky I have something extremely awesome for this day's
Oh,
history.
yay.
It happened today, November 18th, 96 years ago, on a Sunday. Mickey Mouse stars in Steamboat Willie, the
Yay!
first commercially
Oh,
successful animated cartoon to use synchronized sound. Disney's
nice.
third Mickey short, but the first with sound, debuts as a sneak preview at Universal's Colony Theater, located at Broadway and 53rd Street in New York City. It is shown before the feature film Gang War. Steamboat Willie is co-directed by Walt Disney and Oob Iwerks and features the first appearance of Minnie Mouse, too. It is animated by Oob Iwerks, Wilfred Jackson, and Dick Lundy. The short also features the work of in-between artist Lace Clark, who will become one of Walt's 9 old men. Walt himself supplies the voices for all the characters, although there isn't any real spoken dialogue, just whistling, grunts, laughter, and other vocal sounds. Walt sits nervously at the rear of the theater to gauge the audience's reaction. To his delight, the colony echoes with laughs and giggles throughout the short. Steamboat Willie will be shown every night for 2 weeks. Despite the fact that this is not the first Mickey cartoon made or released, it is still considered Mickey Mouse's true debut and birthday.
And Minnie Mouse's birthday for the same
And
reason.
Minnie Mouse's
Yep.
birthday.
Yep.
And
Happy
also,
birthday, Mickey.
happy birthday. And also, while we're on the topic, I have learned of a very special hidden Mickey that can be found in the Magic Kingdom. But it can only be found one day a year at one specific time. And it is in the Little Mermaid attraction. And it is using the sun to shine through a specific Mickey-shaped hole in one of the rocks in the line queue. And when the sun hits the right spot at November 18th at noon, then a Mickey Mouse will shine on the wall.
Neat.
You need to find YouTube evidence of that because I know someone has recorded it and send
That
it
is
to us,
neat.
Sophie, and I'll post it in the show notes or something
Well,
because
here I
that
can
is
find
neat.
I
That
can
is
find a
neat.
picture of it. Hidden Mickey November 18th. And I will show you. Here it is. This is,
Share your
I'm going
screen,
to share
baby.
my screen really quick. Here we go. Right there.
Goodness.
Wow.
You can see the hole right there, and it's usually covered up by those rocks so that the light can't shine through. But when it's November 18th at noon, the light will shine perfectly so that you get a sunshine hidden Mickey.
That is
So
so neat. They think
cool.
of everything.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so
That is
cool.
neat.
That is so
Yay.
cool.
Thank you for sharing, Sophie.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
honey. Great job.
So yes, happy birthday, Mickey Mouse and
And
Minnie
Minnie Mouse.
Mouse.
Yeah,
Yes.
happy birthday, Minnie, also.
Yes,
Twinsies.
That's right.
truly are soulmates.
Yep.
Mm.
Well, I have a fun one for Stump the Soph.
Oh.
You can't stump the Soph. I
You
don't think
can't
I
stump
will.
the Soph.
I don't think I will this time either. But here we go. Let's find out.
Yes.
I'll name the characters. You name the movie.
Okay.
Grimsby.
Grimsby, that is a butler of some kind. That is the Little Mermaid. Oh my gosh, we can't make this up.
It's hilarious how it ends up being.
Now, I'm going to give
together.
you 3/4 credit because he's officially a manservant and
Oh.
confidant, not a butler.
He's a
Which is
butler.
the same thing.
Oh
a
my
butler.
gosh.
What are the odds?
Gosh. Oh my
The odds
goodness.
that I would talk about the Little Mermaid ride.
I have no idea that you were going to talk about that. And it didn't even click on me on this until the other clue was Max.
Oh, the puppy dog.
Uh-huh. And then I was gonna the giveaway, but I was not gonna say Prince. I was just gonna say Eric. So
Yep. That kind of thing happens on this podcast all the time. Everything is interweaved by
Oh my
powers that
gosh.
we can't even explain.
no, we can't.
That
Awesome,
is
Sophie.
So awesome.
Thank you.
That
Bravo.
is a butler. That is the.
That is a
Hilarious.
butler's name.
You're
Butler,
right. It
butler.
really is
Who
a
is-
butler's name. That is very thought provoking. I didn't
Yep.
think about that.
Yeah, so
I
I
just
was
thought,
running
you know what,
through.
Grimsby. That is like such a wacko name. She's not gonna like. Who would know Grimsby?
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, there's no way that's not a butler. And I just started going through the list. I'm like, we've talked about Lawrence, we've
Oh,
talked about
gosh.
Edgar. What other butlers are there in Disney? And then I was like, Little Mermaid, of course.
Of course. For you.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? You know what? If Brenda, if we were stumping the Brenda,
Oh god.
it would, or if
When
you
you
guys
said
were
Eric, I
stumping
probably
me,
would have gotten it. If
I
you'd have
think you
gotten to
would have.
Eric.
I think you
That's
would.
it. That's it.
Anyway, well
That
done,
is
Sophie.
so awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Brenda closes out with a little bit of Walt.
Right. The immediate need for education and practice in using our natural resources of soil, forest, water, wildlife, and areas of inspirational beauty to the best advantage of all for this generation and others to come is again apparent to every observant citizen. My interest in these problems has been sharpened by our motion picture production of wildlife subjects and the relation of animal life to all the other conservation issues during the past few years. Walt Disney.
The man. Nice
Ah,
quote.
Genius.
Great quote. And
The
ties
absolute
together to our topic
genius.
perfectly.
Yay!
Yeah.
He was such a brilliant man.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening in. I'm going to post a question to see if you guys have any other educational aspects of Disney that you want to talk about, and I'll post that in our Facebook group. But we have really enjoyed talking history, talking education, talking Disney education with all of you. So we hope you have enjoyed the show as well. If you are having a rough week, we hope it gets better, and we hope that someone gives you a smile. And if you see someone who's having a rough week, give them one of your smiles, and maybe together we can all be better off. But until next week, I'm Mike. That's Sophie. She's Brenda. He's Grogu. And our topic for next week is talking about our Disney Christmas get-together, because Brenda and Butch and Sophie and Cindy and myself and my mom and my sister, we are all going to be at Disney in the same time period. So we're going to hang out a little bit.
Yay!
And we're gonna have
I'm
so much
excited.
fun. We're gonna have so much
Me
fun.
too.
But that is next week's topic. So until then, have a great week, and we will see you on the road.
road.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya, pal.
Nice. Bye, everyone.